So the inspiration for this project really was that I wanted something which would switch away from news bulletins when they were scheduled to come on, because frankly the mainstream news on BBC and most other channels is just propaganda now. You can't really rely on it to give you the full picture. You have to get that yourself through your own research. So I really hate it when the news bulletins come on, because I know they're going to say something which is untrue or not fully true. They're not going to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. There's going to be one of those things missing or changed. So I wanted to have a radio which would automatically switch to a non-news bulletin to play music when the news was on, and then switch back again afterwards. So that's what this was all about. And then I wrote this Python program to allow me to do that. And it also allows you to schedule stations to be switched on and off. So here I have the Raspberry Pi 3 with the LCD display on. And I put it into this plastic bag, it was really because I was thinking about putting it on various things with metal and didn't want to short circuit. And it's plugged into a Bluetooth speaker, which is got,
hello.
There we go.
Audio.
But I don't use the Bluetooth speaker because it's got a 3.5mm jack. So I do plug it in on that. So I've just plugged the thing in now to the USB power supply, and it's just booting up. And what I've done is I've set the Python program to run such that when you boot it will go straight into the program. And with any luck, the LCD will light up in a moment. A bit of noise coming through there, but you can get rid of that. And then the stream should start playing soon afterwards. So there's the LCD. There we go. So what I can do is I've now set this up with a menu such that I can just turn that down a bit on the volume. So I can set that volume down. And if I unplug this power from because it's actually powered from, there we go, they're getting some power leakage because the battery can be recharged from the USB port, but it does lead to a bit of noise. So now I can press the select key to get a menu up. I can use the mute. So if I press left and right, it will give me the toggle and mute. That's the only option for that. If I go up, I can shut down, press select, and go no or yes. I can also hold the key to shut down. If I go up again, I've got to wait for that. Get out of the menu, and then I can change the connection state. Sorry, check the connection state. So for example, if I select view the connection state, connection is okay, and I've got that local IP address that I've got set, so I can use that now to communicate. I could then choose which station I want by pressing the left and right. I've got a few streams programmed in, so I could go to that station. So this is just a quick video, as I say, to show how this actually works. So you can set your own streams. I'll demonstrate that separately by loading a file called stations.txt and saving it in the home directory, and then that allows you then to set the stations you want and choose from those. There is one particular menu option in here which allows you to do auto change, for example. So you can set it, and this thing will then auto change every 30 minutes, every 60 minutes, etc., every 90 minutes. I think, so you can get it to change the channel randomly every sort of 60 minutes, or change the stream, I should say, and away you go. And with this particular display, which isn't the proper Adafruit one, this is a Chinese knockoff, I had to wire the LCD backlight to the blue LED, so that's why this comes on here, because that's what the Python code illuminates. But your LCD display might be set up differently. But here you can see what this is here. This is the one that you'll find on Amazon and eBay. It looks like this in the bottom right hand corner. So what I've got here is I've also got a plugin for Notepad++, which allows me to transfer files through SFTP. So if you've got SSH running on your Raspberry Pi, then you can use this to log in within Notepad itself, and you don't have to use a separate program. And you'll see here this is now logged in. So I've entered the, if you go into this screen here, if you go into that option there and do profile settings, you'll see I've got this Raspberry local profile here. Here's the address that is on the network. And that's currently IP address 50 on my network. Put in username and password, and then you can log in like that. And I'll choose that one. And that's the connect disconnect button there. And there I'm logged in. So if I want to look at the stations.txt file on there, I can double click on that, and then it should load it into here. And so here you can see that you've got the stream name, then the stream address, and that's basically it for that one. If I go down to another one like this Funk to Folk, I've got that set, same details, but then what I've got set there is that this stream will be switched to at 1 PM and it will remain on until 5 PM. And then if we go down here, for example, I've got BBC Radio 2, which I used to listen to a lot, not listen to it at all recently, but the news bulletins are then blanked out, because from 0 hours to 23 hours at minute 0 we would then say we've got a 5-minute bulletin, and at that point we'd switch to station number 2 in the list, which happens to be the ambient chill out, as I've got this set here. And then also I've specified that between the hours of 6 AM and 8 AM, at the 30th minute of the hour, in other words, the bottom of the hour, as the Americans sometimes say, we have a shorter 2-minute bulletin. That will also be blanked out, and you'll switch away. And then there is another program here between the hours of 12 noon and 12 noon. There is a program which I hate, called Jeremy Vine, and that would then also be blanked out, because during that period, starting at minute 0 for a period of 120 minutes, this would be blanked out. So if the stream had been set to try and play that station every minute, it would then switch away to channel number 2. And if you didn't specify a channel there, it would just go to the default, which is the first channel in the list. So that's how that works. Now you can actually save this onto the device, and here's the Python code as well that I've got running there, and I've already got a copy here, and so this is the code. I'll just give you a quick run through there. You can look at the code just yourself. So I've got some variables here at the top for the menu states. There's kind of 4 sub-menus and things. And then we've got various variables to do with the stations and station timeout and flags and things. Then we've got some commands which are sent to the console to control the volume and stuff. That seems to be the easiest way to do it. We use VLC media player objects within Python and modules to do all the streaming stuff, because that's a very good library. It does all the streaming stuff for you, and very easy to invoke. I can reset the connection on the system with this function. That's called from the menu, and or check the connection. It will show the IP address. This was some code that I picked up from a forum to get the local IP address easily. It can be quite difficult to get that, apparently. So we start up an instance of VLC player, and here we're initializing the LCD. This is all again this code has been copied from various blogs and postings and things like Adafruit. That sets up the I2C bus, and then we can then have an LCD object within Python, and we can then clear the LCD and then display messages on it. LCD.message, for example, and that gives you give it 32 characters, and it will display that when put in a new line and stuff, and then that will put it onto the second line. And then these functions are called when a key press is detected, And for example, this is for the select key being pressed, which activates the menu and stuff and selects the menu option you're currently on. And that's probably got the most complicated logic in it there, because it does various different things depending on the state. Load the stations in. That's read from this text file, stations.txt, which is in the, as you see here, is in the same directory as the Python program runs. So there's the stations.txt file there. Yeah, I could go through all the code, but you can just read it. You can always email me with questions if you want. And then this is the check keyboard function, which is basically a polling. It's called within a timer loop at the end of this Python code. Checks, and then you've got these. The LCD object also defines the values for the key presses, and you can check to see which button's been pressed. I think it will handle multiple key presses, so you could do key combinations for certain things if you wanted. For example, I've set if I select the select button, then it will. I can get it. If I hold it down, it can do a countdown so that it shuts down. Get volume, that gets the system volume that's currently set on the Raspberry Pi, so that it doesn't get set in a bad way initially when you change it. Go to new station, that will load the appropriate stream URL, and then switch to that, and so forth and so on. So I don't want to go through all of it, but here is the main loop at the end after the definition of the last function. So that's just a closed while loop, put in a bit of a delay to allow things to go on in the background, and then we check the time and stuff, because the Raspberry Pi loading will get the time from the internet, because obviously this needs to be connected to the internet for the streaming thing to work anyway. So you get the time from there and so forth. So the only other thing then is within the actual Raspberry Pi system, we need to log in. And for example, I'm using PuTTY here. I'll just drag this across, change that to 50, and then I'll open. So I'm logging on now to the streaming radio. Just put in the password which I've got set, and there. So if I just do ls to list the, in fact I'll do ls-l, and you'll see I've got the files there that I talked about before. So you can edit the stations.txt on there if you want, but I prefer to do it in Notepad because it's just more user friendly, and obviously I can copy and paste things from the internet and stuff. And you can get all these streams from the Icecast directory. That's available through VLC Player and other places as well. In fact, the Icecast directory is a website as well, so you can get I don't know, there must be 50,000 free streams you can listen to on the web, and I just picked these sort of randomly almost and liked quite a few of them, so haven't really departed from those. So a good selection of different types of music and stuff. So, and you can access local stations as well. As you see there, I live just outside Derby in the UK, so you can see all that in there. So how do you get the Python program to run when you reboot the Raspberry Pi? Well, that's done. The easiest way I've found to do it is using cron tab. So if you go into cron tab with a -e, these are the time tasks. What you can do is you can put in a command at reboot, and then this will actually be actioned when the Raspberry Pi reboots. So you see here I've got a sleep delay of about 8 seconds just to allow things to get going a bit, and then I run Python 3 and then newslessradio.py, which will be read from the directory of the Pi user, the default user, which is the one that I've saved the code in, and that will just run at reboot, and away it goes, and it'll load everything up just like the code does, and it'll start playing the music or whatever stream is set immediately. It's connected to the internet. The other thing, of course, you've got to do is you do have to set up the network connection, which is in you can find out how to do that online. So that's basically it, really. There's various other menu options which I haven't shown you, but you can see what those are by looking at the code, which you can then adapt this for your own purposes, and use your own judgment as to what features you want. And I hope that's been of some interest and use, and maybe you can reuse some of this code for other Python programs or streaming projects. I'll just switch that off now.
Goodbye.
And I hope that's been of some use to people. You can look at the blog for more and look at the GitHub code that I've put there. So there you go. So as I say, this is just a quick overview.